everyone. My name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today, I regret to inform you that we have yet another viral story, courtesy of Twitter.com. Seriously, what is going on this year on Twitter? I swear I am seeing more stories about kink gain traction this year than I have ever seen in the previous 6 years I have been on the website put together. I have my own theories about why that is, but that'll have to be for another video, because right now, what I want to talk about is what happened to a mid-sized content creator who dared to show the aftermath of a scene to a public and apparently very vanilla audience. So this is what happened. Shortly after July 4th, a user who I will call Gal to help preserve her anonymity posted a pair of photos on her Twitter with the following caption: "The girl and the reason that she hasn't been posting new pics this week." The first photo shows Gal from the top of her ribcage, including her face, and the second shows her legs, focused on the front of her thighs. The torso photo shows her with a combination of light to dark red marks around her shoulder area and down her chest muscles, and a few stripes running up from the top of her chest on the opposite side. I am not showing the full photos here to 1, help preserve her privacy, and 2, because putting them on YouTube would probably get me immediately drop-kicked by the YouTube community guideline spot. But in any case, the photo that really seemed to grab attention was the second one, the one that was focused on her thighs. And essentially what it showed was on her thighs, they appeared to be covered with this large, continual bruise about the size of a large dinner plate. For my estimation, they already seemed to be on the way to healing. The center of each was a bullseye of yellow with another ring of yellow around the very outer edge, with the space in between filled by red and purple tones. If you have been on FetLife, if you are kinky and you do impact play, this is maybe a slightly above average photo of a bruise. I know I have for sure seen worse, darker, larger bruises, literally black and blue in tone from somebody's calves to the very top of their shoulders. It might be somewhat remarkable that it focused on the front of the thighs, but you know, hey, everyone has a preference. Some people love floggers, some people love canes, some people love getting bruises on their back, other people prefer their legs. To each their own. I'm telling you all of this so you can paint an accurate picture in your heads before coming to any conclusions. This isn't some extreme needle play thing. There's no blood anywhere. There's no hooks. There's no busted lips, no open wounds, or bruised eyelids. Basically, if you put this on FetLife, it would seem like the aftermath of a moderately intense scene for a dedicated masochist. It's not the kind of thing that would cause discourse in kinky circles or on social media for kinky people. But this didn't happen on kinky social media. It happened on Twitter. So I was first alerted to all this happening via a quote tweet someone I followed shared, which eventually led me to the original post. Based on this quote tweet from one Dr. Snow, I thought I would be in for something much more intense. And this is, to be clear, this is not me grandstanding or trying to make it seem like I'm the kinkiest kinkster who ever lived. Far from it, but the combination of the intensity of the photos and the intensity of the public backlash it got made me think, ooh, we've got a problem here and we need to communicate about it, because nothing truly extreme is really happening, and that's what I want to try and communicate. Unfortunately, though, Twitter's reply hierarchy is now permanently messed up thanks to their decision to rank paying users above everyone else, so often the worst of the worst gets pinned to the top. Some initial replies to the photo said things like, "That's abuse," "not safe doming," and "Jesus, what happened? Did you get hit by a dom or a truck?" And definitely a car hit her, those bruises are at the perfect level for a bumper. Actually, a lot of people seem to be fairly confident these marks came from a near miss with a vehicle, and I don't know where that came from. But for the most common response, you oftentimes saw things like people being very condescending, like, "Girl, please sub safely," and "OMG, are you okay?" And ooh, this kind of faux concern makes me just want to roll my eyes into the back of my head. Luckily, I am pretty practiced at responding to things like this because this kind of thing has been happening even within the kink community for years whenever someone posts a photo of a person in rope with even a slightly discolored limb. I remember being on Tumblr in like 2016 and seeing how every shibari photo would get some version of a comment like, "But isn't that dangerous?" Or, "She needs to come down. Her leg is purple. You are abusing her." Almost as though this is happening in real time, and if you said something, you could have saved the poor damsel in distress. I wonder how many people were just trying to white knight roleplay while saying those things. I guess we'll never know, but it is sad to see how little things have changed, how people still love to performatively care for the sake of their own egos more than the subject they're trying to care for. But hey, I'll be charitable for just a second. Maybe the people responding like this are legitimately concerned. Maybe it popped up on their feed with zero context. Maybe somebody shared it around and went with the "OMG, she got hit by a truck" narrative. That is possible, but I am not addressing my ire at those people. I am focusing on the people who saw the caption, saw the account it came from, and saw the tweet thread under the photo, and then still decided it was appropriate to leave a "Oh, darling, hope you get better soon" reply, like a grandma replying to an AI-generated photo of a fake girl missing a leg on Facebook. Like, literally, immediately under the photos, gal said, "Consider this my post-Pride weekend post. My friends love me." Like, isn't that so sweet? Isn't that so lovely? Isn't that the kind of life we all want to have? But no, we can't have that because instead we are ignoring signs. This whole thing was consensual to concern troll instead over a stranger. So honestly, the reaction to this either way, either from people who really did not know what they were looking at, or people who did and just decided to be snarky about it, just shows how important easily accessible kink education is. Over the last few decades, I've known people who have advocated for programs to teach law enforcement and medical providers about consensual versus non-consensual markings, how to talk to people about their experiences, and listen for answers that can help someone suss out the difference between potential DV and kink. Of course, the line can be blurry there. Consensual kink is not always nice and pretty, and DV can happen in kink relationships, which makes it hard to be able to fully tell the difference sometimes. But having people on the front lines know the difference between the two can make it so people who need help get it more often, and the rest of us aren't harassed with pamphlets or secretly reported to protective services. But it's maybe just as important for the general public to gain a similar level of awareness. Not all of us post photos of our bruises on Twitter, sure, but lots of us have family and vanilla friends and coworkers to worry about. Especially in the summer, you have to be concerned about someone noticing that rope mark, or somebody looking at maybe a scar from a previous scene, or somebody getting close enough to be able to make out that that bruise is kind of in a weird pattern. You don't want to have to explain why you're wearing pants in the middle of a heat wave, or worse yet, to have to gently tell your parents that yes, you are fine, and please do not ask any more questions about the bruise they saw by accident under your sleeve. So maybe it is worth it at this point to talk about what some of those differences are. How can you start to tell a consensual bruise from one that got left by a truck? So, location, first of all, is a really big one here. Consensual kink markings will tend to be concentrated on fleshy areas like the butt, thighs, and back, and sometimes on the chest as well. They'll often be grouped and symmetrical. Marks left by other things like an accident or non-consensual harm tend to be more random and dispersed throughout the whole body, particularly on the face, neck, hands, forearm, joints, and stomach. Popular kink toys like whips and canes, things you aren't likely to see in a vanilla context, leave telltale marks. I wish I could show you the photos again, but community guidelines bot, you gotta worry about it, and I can't really show you, like, hey, these are the marks that a whip leaves, so I'll try to describe it as best I can. Canes, for example, tend to leave darker parallel lines with a paler area where the cane actually struck. Whips leave long, trailing crisscrossing marks, which can lead to redness and raised skin. Most bog standard impact play is carefully curated to cause intense sensation without leaving damage behind or breaking the skin. So that means you're not really going to see as much skin knees, split lips, cracked ribs, fractured noses, black eyes, or the like, unless either someone is playing very hard or something went wrong. What may be even more vital is to listen to how people talk about their experiences. Kinksters may still be reluctant to talk about their play or how they got their marks, particularly if they are afraid of getting into legal trouble. But they will often describe their marks as well, as marks, something to be proud of or something they earned. They may talk about how their partners took care of them, how it was something that they had planned on doing or they discussed ahead of time. It wasn't random. It didn't come out after an argument or a fight or while anyone was under the influence. So in general, especially online, if you see someone proudly talking about the marks they got from their partner or their friends, it's probably not your job as a stranger to worry on their behalf. Now, based on some of the recent topics I've covered, like Twitter discovering CNC and getting really mad about it, or the Tumblr meltdown over kink not always being about sex, it may not surprise you to know who the main perpetrators of the worst responses were here. No, they were not 50-something conservative dudes in pickup trucks, but other queer and trans people. The call is, once again, coming from inside the house. I think it's becoming increasingly clear that there is a growing segment of LGBT folks, some younger and some not so young, who are very invested in optics. They believe, without studying queer history, that the path forward to acceptance is to slowly erase all of the least acceptable versions of being queer. Like, if you just get rid of all the people who like weird sex or date more than one person at a time or whatever, that's suddenly going to be the thing that gets straight society to be on our side. Like, that's not how it works. A lot of young queer women have allied themselves with radical, usually trans and sex worker exclusive feminists for similar reasons. They're scared about being accepted, and they're also concerned with giving ammunition to the enemy. This will somehow damage our ability to defeat the patriarchy, or it will prove their suspicions correct. Everyone else who does kink is brainwashed by the patriarchy, that kind of language. They strangely see no irony in aligning themselves with the ideas of the very conservative men they are supposedly most afraid of. That intimacy involving kink is inherently damaging, and that sleeping around is always bad, but especially for women, and so on. And I think this fear can manifest in other ways. In larger queer culture, more and more people seem to be unironically playing the "but I'm a 22-year-old teenager" card whenever they see something online they don't like. Harm is overstated for the sake of getting sympathy and to shame those who don't conform. I have a feeling the last decade or so also damaged our abilities to emotionally self-regulate, and many people have a long-lasting hairpin trigger. if you'll forgive my use of that particular phrase. So things feel much more real and scary than they actually are in reality. And let's not forget our abysmal sex education here in America, which barely covers cishet intercourse, let alone literally anything else, and it likely never covers consent. This leads people to be very ill-equipped when they see things more deviant than making out with the lights on. Pleasure is seen as synonymous with consent, so pain must therefore be non-consensual from the jump. Though, I just don't understand how you could possibly want to be hit. Ugh, that just sounds so strange. You know, that refrain illustrates this very simply. The average person can scarcely imagine a world where consent is always asked for and respected, let alone when it gets nuanced and a little bit difficult to understand. When you might not consent to things that do feel good, and you might likewise say heck yes to activities that leave bruises the size of softballs on your legs. The reason why so many people, particularly young LGBT folks, can't handle seeing anything just left of vanilla are myriad. Increasing social isolation, a lack of developmentally appropriate separate online spaces for preteens and teens, helicopter parenting, being constantly monitored 24/7, the list really goes on, but it all ultimately leads to the same place. People being needlessly judgmental, helpful, towards strangers on the internet. So, on the off chance you are one of those people who thought they were leaving a well-intentioned comment when they replied, "Girl, this is dangerous," let me dispel you of that illusion right now. Even if this is something that caused the person harm, they didn't ask for your opinion. They didn't ask for your help. You don't know them. There is jack all you can do from 3,000 miles away. Unless they captioned the photo something like, "send me good vibes" or whatever, keep your help to yourself, because it probably is not actually help. And second of all, you have no way of knowing whether or not something is dangerous from a photo. I can sometimes make an educated guess because I've seen several thousand photos of typical kink bruises, and I have been in the scene for nigh on a decade, and I know what they look like on me as well. But most people do not have the experience necessary to do that. And also, it is still not any of your beeswax. What do you think publicly shaming someone for this is going to do? Because I'm willing to bet that 9 out of 10 times, all that happens is the person keeps doing what they were doing, but they stop sharing it and just do it even more privately, making it even harder for them to get the help you think they might need. And for the love of God, please stop confusing bruises with danger. Some of the most dangerous things you can do in kink, like choking, rarely leave a single mark behind. You can get bruises in ways that are safer. You can get bruises in ways that are more high risk. This is not something you can always tell from the outside. I would love to study the psychology of people who seemingly know enough about kink to leave a comment like, "this isn't safe doming," but know so little about it at the same time they don't understand how typical what is shown in the photo is. You can't always tell what's going on from a single snapshot. Some people bruise like peaches when you breathe on them too hard. Other people, you could whip them for 2 hours and they would not have a single mark left on them after maybe 24 hours. Different people have different bodies. You can't really tell how dangerous something is just from a bruise. So don't try to make it more than it really is, I guess. Now, one thing I do also want to talk about is I have a theory that there is a sizable minority of the population who have a kink for me, not kink for thee attitude about things like this. They probably enjoy true crime or spicy book talk novels or kinky fan fiction. A lot of them probably only engage in kink in their heads, and so they have a version of it that is totally different from real life. Or when they do engage in it in real life, it's the kind of thing that avoids any mark-leaving masochism. You know, pleasure doming, blindfolds, etc. I would wager a lot of them like hair pulling, choking, and biting, and don't see which one of those things on the list is not like the other. But the combination of all of these things, or some of these things, leaves them feeling informed and aware of kink enough to judge the safety and sanity of what other people do, when really they have just barely turned over the first stone in the middle of a quarry. Honestly, it's situations like this that help me understand why people wanted to move away from SSE and to rack. There is nothing wrong at all with engaging in kink on this level, of course, except for when it causes you to become the kink police. Check thyself before ye wreck thyself, as the scholars of old used to say. And just in case there was any doubt that the help was unwarranted and unwanted, in the days following the photo going viral, the original poster had this to say, quote, "Regarding BDSM, just like with trans people or SW, your concern doesn't sound like you care for me. It sounds like you're judging me." And alright, this is my last post about it, but the amount of trans people who told me to seek help was so effed up. Like, if you sound the same as transphobes, maybe you should work on that. And in my opinion, these responses get to the heart of the matter. At the end of the day, it is infantilizing to police what grown adults are doing on the internet. And fake show concern for them that they didn't ask for and are not actually helped by. To assume that you know better than they do, or that you know better whether or not they enjoyed it or wanted it, is just so ignorant. If you have no idea what you are talking about, any care is going to come across as hollow. It is likely to be perceived as performative at best and judgmental at worst. And to be honest, it's not even just perceived as at some points. It just is. If you see a photo of a stranger and your first reaction, despite them saying it's consensual, is to go, "Sweetie, you are being abused. Seek help, please," you are part of the problem. Abuse, DV, relational harm is not a mere set of actions. It is not giving someone a bruise. It is a systematic form of coercive control that no amount of words will stop. The fact that we as a society have reduced the definition of abuse down to when someone hits you or when you get a bruise from your partner is a tragedy. I have personally seen the harm of this play out in real life. I know people who have told themselves they could not possibly be experiencing abuse because the other party never laid hands on them. But the fact of the matter is, while a photo of a bruise may be used as evidence in a courtroom, a photo alone cannot tell you if someone is experiencing abuse. So don't act like it does, and definitely do not speak over people that you think may be potential victims. That doesn't help anything. But I get the inclination. Many of us feel powerless against the growing reports of DV. We may have our own triggers. We may have wished someone reached out to us and said, "Hey, banana head, this isn't right." You know, we may have grown up in an abusive home, and seeing bruises are an instant, painful reminder of that time. Our history, our biases may make it literally impossible for us to, for now, understand why anyone would ever want something like that. But that doesn't mean the other person is a victim or lying to themselves or anything else. It means we have our own crap we need to deal with. And not to sound too cliche, but don't take things so personally. I don't mean that in the usual sense, but literally. Not everything on the internet is a personal message meant for you. Not everything is about you. When someone says they like something you can't comprehend, it is not a reaction to you. It does not mean anything about you. It just is. We would all do so well to remember the "I like pancakes" tweet a little more often. So the next time you feel the urge to fire off a "Oh no, sweetie, I know what's really going on here" type comment, just stop and ask yourself, is this productive? Is this kind? And who who am I doing this for? Because this is not just a problem for vanilla folks on Twitter. I have seen the circular firing squads on FetLife and the endless debates on Tumblr. We do this to ourselves too, and I have empathy for why, but we can also be better. I remember seeing actually recently a story on FetLife of somebody who, I think they were posting about like getting ligature marks, or it was something like that. They were doing some kind of like CNC type scene, and a bunch of people were like, well, like I'm on board with CNC normally, but this is just simply a bridge too far. And like, we're all kinky here. Like, what's happening? Who's to say that, like, you can consent to water sports, but not, like, I'm not gonna get into it, but it's that kind of thing where it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we policing other people's kink? This isn't helpful. And if you genuinely want to be someone who is helping people that you think may be in a bad situation, the best thing you can do is be a kind, listening ear. It oftentimes will drive people away if you quickly go, well, like, I need to save you. You're doing something bad. Let me help you. Like, that's going to get a lot of people to run away. So it's not actually really the best practice, most of the time, at least. But again, not a DV expert. If you want to know about that, go research somewhere else. I'm not the person for that, but that is simply what I know from the top of my head. So that is more or less what y'all need to know about this. I truly do not understand what is going on. I don't know why everyone on Twitter seemingly is like wanting to learn about kink in the worst way imaginable, but it is happening and it is what it is. So now you are informed. Go forth with that information, and just, I think, really want to emphasize reflecting on why you are saying what you are saying, and are you doing it because you actually care about the other person, or are you doing it for your own ego and to play the type of role you wish you could be, right? Be that white knight, but like unironically actually white knighting, not just, defending women on the internet, I guess. But that all being said, that's everything I have to share with you all today. I would love to know your thoughts and feelings about this one in a comment down below. Have you ever experienced anything like this? Were you ever someone who posted a shibari photo on Tumblr and got a very bizarre reaction to it? I would love to know everything you have to think about this one in a comment down below. If you did enjoy this, you're not already, please do subscribe, because I make videos twice a week about all different kink and BDSM related topics. And finally, if you want to support what I do, the best you can do that is with Patreon. Link to that will be down below. If you do already support me there, thank you so, so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you all next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.